Hello and welcome to Chapter 15, the Autonomic Nervous System. Today we'll kind of look at how the autonomic nervous system works compared to the somatic nervous system. So the somatic nervous system, again, only controls motor output to skeletal muscles. We are collecting information through sensory neurons, from touch, pain, temperature, and proprioception. Autonomic nervous system, we're going to receive input from sensory receptors located in organs, blood vessels, muscles, and the nervous system itself. Output will be to involuntary functions. Okay, so we have our integrative center at the hypothalamus. So everything running through the hypothalamus, controlling the autonomic nervous system, as we saw in the last chapter. We have two motor neurons in a sequence, so preganglionic and postganglionic. We will see coming from the central nervous system, we have a preganglionic neuron, and this will connect to a postganglionic neuron within a ganglion. We have two main divisions that we talked about already, sympathetic division and parasympathetic. So sympathetic is going to be our fight or flight, where we see increased alertness, increased metabolic rate, and muscular abilities. Parasympathetic, we're reducing the metabolic rate while promoting digestion. Okay, so sympathetic is going to kick in during exertion or stress, or in an emergency, creating the fight or flight situation. Parasympathetic, we're controlling resting conditions, so at rest we can obviously rest and digest. 7 responses to sympathetic activity. We have heightened mental alertness. This is for helping our senses to take in information of our surrounding area to decide whether we should fight or flee. Okay? Then we increase metabolic rate. This way we can use material that we have taken into our body for our advantage at getting our systems going, mostly heart rate, respiratory rate, and skeletal muscle. Then we reduce digestion and urinary functions because we simply don't need the blood flow to those areas. We need that blood flow to our brain, heart, lungs, and skeletal muscle. Energy reserves are activated simply because we have an increased demand. Increased respiratory rate and respiratory passageways will dilate, creating better airflow. Increased heart rate and blood pressure to make sure blood is pumping all throughout the body through the skeletal muscle and to our brain. And then sweat glands are activated to keep the body cool. Since we are increasing our metabolic rate, we will increase our temperature. Sweat glands will keep us normal. Responses from the parasympathetic activity. We decrease metabolic rate because we do not have a high demand for energy at the moment. Decrease heart rate and blood pressure simply because hopefully we're at rest. Increase secretion of salivary and digestive glands. So parasympathetic takes over when we are eating and digesting our food. Increase motility and blood flow into the digestive tract to move food through so we can absorb the nutrients and get rid of waste. And then urination and defecation stimulation can take place because we are not threatened at the moment and we have time to take care of these facilities. Okay, comparing axons in the somatic versus the autonomic systems. The somatic system will have a single axon from the central nervous system to the effector. We have two neurons in the autonomic system. We have a preganglionic and postganglionic. So here you can see central nervous system to a ganglion where we connect to another neuron and we move to our effector. The adrenal glands can act as a modified ganglion and modified neuron. So we connect to the adrenal glands and we send out epinephrine and norepinephrine. And here we have in the parasympathetic system, again, another ganglion. Again, fight or flight, with the sympathetic nervous system, increase metabolism and alertness. Parasympathetic, we decrease most body activities. Okay, this is talking about pre and post ganglionic cells. So the sympathetic division also is known as the thoracolumbar division because the thoracic and lumbar segments of the spinal cord are going to contain the motor neurons for the sympathetic division. This is where we see those lateral gray horns come into play for the spinal cord. So again, motor neurons for the sympathetic division are coming from the thoracolumbar area, so also known as the thoracolumbar division. Okay, so this is showing that spinal cord, thoracic, lumbar area, the preganglionic neuron to a ganglion, and postganglionic neurons will move to the effector. The parasympathetic division is going to be known as the craniosacral division, as well as rest and digest. This is because the nuclei of 4 cranial nerves, 3, 7, 9, and 10, all have an effect with the parasympathetic division. Okay? And then we have the lateral gray horn, or the lateral gray matter of the sacral segments, having effect for motor output with the parasympathetic division, hence craniosacral division. Okay, so this is showing these cranial nerves having an effect. So pupil dilation is going to be from cranial nerve 3, oculomotor. And then facial nerve, we have salivary secretions. And then the cranial nerve 9, we will see the blood pressure being taken care of here. And then the otic ganglion is going to have effects with the salivary gland as well. And then the vagus nerve will have a large effect on heart rate, respiratory rate, and digestive functions. And then from the sacral area, we have digestive functions, urinary functions, and reproductive organs being innervated. Okay, so here we will see these sympathetic and parasympathetic ganglions are going through. We have the sympathetic ganglia, 2 major types. We have sympathetic trunk and the prevertebral ganglia. So this is just going to be ganglionic chains along the spinal cord, where the presynaptic or the preganglionic neuron will come from the spinal cord and then connect to a postganglionic neuron. This is just a large way of saying that a connection from the central nervous system, so that preganglionic neuron, can connect in a ganglion at the same level. It can move up or down a level. It can move through one chain to another chain, or it can move through one chain to the adrenal gland. Simply saying that the preganglionic neuron does not have to synapse at the same level of which it extends from the spinal cord. Okay, in the abdomen and pelvis, we also have some plexuses that will take shape for the autonomic nervous system, mostly named for the artery for which they are around and distribute from. Seen here. Okay, so this is just another slide explaining where these systems are extending from. And again, the same thing. Okay, so this is showing how we extend from the central nervous system, connect to a ganglion, and then our second neuron. Okay, neurotransmitters and receptors in the autonomic nervous system, we're either going to have cholinergic or adrenergic. Cholinergic will see the release of acetylcholine, while adrenergic will release norepinephrine or noradrenaline. Cholinergic receptors will be nicotinic or muscarinic. So in the sympathetic division, we will see nicotinic, adrenergic, as well as muscarinic receptors because we are releasing acetylcholine, but we also release norepinephrine. Where in the parasympathetic division, we only see nicotinic or muscarinic because we only release acetylcholine. We do not release norepinephrine. So acetylcholine is the only neurotransmitter released in the parasympathetic division. Okay, so some specific events that will take place that I want you to know are these right here. Heart rate. The sympathetic division will increase heart rate. It will increase respiratory rate, decrease digestion, and decrease kidney function as far as urine production. Parasympathetic will do the opposite in all of these areas. It will decrease heart rate, respiratory rate, increase digestion, and kidney function. There are several charts here that will describe multiple different activities happening in the parasympathetic versus the sympathetic divisions. Okay. Integration and control. We're going to see autonomic reflex arcs. So a lot like the spinal reflexes, we have receptors, sensory neuron, integration, motor neurons, and effectors. So a lot like we see with the somatic system. Okay? We obviously have connections in all parts of the body from the nervous system because if we do not have innervation to an area, we do not have life. And that is it.